the computer. Well, happy Monday, everybody. Yes, it's Liquid Sunshine, so it's not exactly a Chamber of Commerce day, but we're going to claim that it is. So just visualize sunny and beach and whatever makes you happy. But we're happy you're here with us, and we are very happy that Susie and the Frankfurt Area Chamber of Commerce agreed to do this with us so we could bring the two chambers together. So we like meeting new people. So even though we can't see you in person, we like your faces. So it's all good. We are very happy to have Michael Ashcraft on board today. He is the Senior Area Manager for the Kentucky District Office of the Small Business Association. Did I get that right, Michael?
Administration, but
administration.
Else is right on.
Sorry. Yeah,
no
well,
problem.
it's Monday.
It's Monday.
Yeah, it is Monday. Michael, if you have not ever listened to him, you're in for a very good treat because he is extremely knowledgeable and does an excellent job explaining it. He's going to have some slides. I'm going to flip over here to screen share, and he'll lead us through it. So he's going to have some time for question and answers. So I'm going to let Michael take it away.
Okay. Thanks so much, Kathy. I'm going to go ahead and close my laptop camera, and then you'll be able to see my screen. Okay. Kathy, lost where I can share my screen.
Uh-oh. Well, hang on.
Okay.
Try it now.
Host disabled. Can you go ahead and enable that?
See, that's what I did. I tried to do exactly what I did the other day, and let me go to advanced. We tried this, guys, so we would have this correct.
Yeah.
Let's do portion of screen and see if that works. Can you do it now?
Let's see. It's still giving that message about.
It tells me I'm screen sharing. Okay.
Are you trying to share your screen, Kathy?
Yeah.
I could see your screen. I could see your screen up on the screen here.
It probably needs to be where
And the
you're
resources,
over
COVID resources.
the sharing the screen to me.
Yeah, I can see it.
I can also.
It says need resources on using Zoom during COVID-19 pandemic. Is that what you're trying to show?
No, that's not what he's trying to show. So that's why I'm confused, because when we tried it the other day, there was a button to where I could share with him, and that button is not there now.
So you're trying to share what's on your screen, Kathy?
No, I can do that though.
You want Michael to be able to share his
I
screen?
want Michael to be able to.
Okay, you have to make him a co-host.
Okay, anybody want to tell me how to do that?
It should be like maybe one of the three buttons up, and you see the three little dots in the top of his screen, this top of his image. If you hover your cursor over his.
Okay. Make
co-host.
Well, it doesn't say co-host, it makes host. So
Okay,
that work.
Make him the host. Then he can kick you out, but whatever.
He can kick me out. That's okay.
I won't do that, Kathy.
I don't care. I deserve it after this, but we really did try this out and it worked.
Yeah.
All right, try sharing your screen now, Michael.
Okay. Yes. Way to talk it through.
All right.
Are you all able to see mine now?
Yes. Awesome. Thank you, Bruce.
Sure.
Wonderful. Thanks, Bruce. Okay. So I'll go over let me start at the top. I'll go over the PPP program first, sorry. And then I will take some questions, and then we'll talk about the EIDL and the EIDL Advance and a few other programs. And forgive my voice, I've got that Kentucky funk that happens, with allergies. So I apologize for sounding hoarse this morning or this afternoon. So basically it relaunched a couple of weeks ago. Here are the highlights and the changes that Congress made. A couple of things, they expanded the different types of expenses that could be included for the PPP. This is huge down here: operation expenditures, property damage, supplier costs, worker protection. That's a big win for all of you if you had any kind of expenses or will have any kind of expenses, whether it has to do with employee protection, or it could be minor things like masks and face shields, or it could be major things as listed here, like a drive-through window for a business, to serve customers so that you can stay open. So basically, those were big wins in terms of the core group of expenses, plus many other things that people had been asking for way back last summer. So that's important. And if you did not receive a PPP before now, you've got a huge amount of money to work with. But in most cases, it's going to be whatever your payroll has been historically for.
I don't hear him.
Yeah, is anybody else having trouble hearing?
Can't hear him.
Michael, we can't hear you.
Yeah, I can't hear him.
Michael.
I can't see him either, but I don't know if that's.
Well, he shut that we know. He shut the screen down for that.
Oh, did he? Okay. Hopefully he can reconnect. Did we just lose him?
It looks like we just lost him.
Yeah, it looks
Now
like.
you're back the host.
Okay, hang on. Let me see if he's jumping back on with his iPad, I believe. Well, somebody did.
Oh, that's Mr. Bob Cox. He's one of
Oh,
Frankfurt Chambers members.
okay. Well,
Well, we could kind of go around the room and introduce each other, introduce ourselves to each other.
that'll work. Go ahead, Bruce.
Okay. My name is Bruce Corwin. I serve on the board of the Prospect Chamber. I am a wealth manager with First Kentucky Securities. So I'll pass it on to Susie. She seems next on my screen.
Okay, great. Hi, Susie Hossley. I'm the interim chamber president for the Frankfurt Area Chamber. So welcome everyone. Hopefully we'll get back up with our guest speaker here soon, but glad to be here and glad to see some faces. And Sydney, you're on my screen right next to me. So.
Hey guys, I'm Sydney. I'm with ServPro of Lexington. I'm a marketing representative and we are a part of Frankfurt Chamber. And then let's see, I have Tommy.
Hey there, I'm Tommy Haynes and I'm a civic leader in Frankfurt and a member of the Chamber of Commerce here, and just happy to see everybody in their squares. Am I supposed to look and see who's next?
Yeah, go ahead. It's up to you.
Yeah.
Okay, Amy Crittenden.
Hi, everyone. Amy Crittenden with Oasis Senior Advisors. We service Louisville and surrounding counties in Southern Indiana. What we do is we help families navigate senior living. And it also encompasses like in-home care, rehab services, independent living, assisted living, personal care, and memory care. So we like to think, or we like to call ourselves a one-call many solutions. So anything in the geriatric space with aging parents, that's a great referral for us. Oh, Patrick.
Hi, everybody. I'm Patrick Cashman. I'm the owner of Express Employment Professionals in Georgetown, and we service Georgetown, Frankfurt, and Versailles. And we've been in business for just about 1 year. We opened about 2 weeks before the world shut down, so it's been an interesting first year. But we are going strong now. So happy to be here. Oh, I guess I got who's left? Mike.
Okay, I'm gonna save you the visual. I am on a Bowflex Max trainer, so I'm not having an episode. I'm fine, but I will be muting so you don't have to listen or see this. And I'm from Frankfurt.
Okay, who hasn't gone?
Bob Cox hadn't went.
Tommy, I was right above you on my screen, so I thought you might pass it up. It's good to see the faces. My wife is painting a bathroom today because she just needs something to do. If you will want to paint a bathroom, we are obviously in need of interaction somehow. So I'm Bob Cox. I'm with West Banco here in Frankfurt. I'm on the Frankfurt board. And of course, West Banco is a member. We have banks over 6 different states, Kentucky and neighboring states. And so I'm just happy to be on here listening and find out more information. Good to see your face again, Tommy Haynes. and everybody else. I didn't mean to pick out Tommy. Just really like seeing his face.
Kathy, did you get a response from him? I just tried calling him.
He's just now, I just admitted him.
Okay.
So.
All right.
And if you all get my ear, I have to multitask here for a moment. So I'm not trying to be rude. I'm still listening.
I apologize. I'm back. I'm
Yay.
not sure where I lost the connection.
Okay, now let me make you a host again. Here we go.
Okay. Everybody still with me?
Yep.
Yay. I'm not sure how far back I need to go for you. I was talking about the changes that happened with expenses, these ones in bold. Did you hear that? Okay. Moving forward, Susie's shaking her head. Okay. And then the different organizations, including chambers of commerce and those in destination marketing, which is basically tourism-driven attractions. So those are changes Congress made, and then they fixed the issue with the IRS. You can do anywhere from 8 weeks up to 24 weeks to use up your PPP proceeds. You just use your average monthly payroll for either 2019 or 2020 in most cases. So it's a quick calculation for most of you. And just a couple other things, just a reminder, you have to use at least 60% of the money you receive on the PPP for payroll. You can use 100% if you like, at least 60%. If you have an issue with head count, in other words, if you have people that leave and you cannot get somebody else back on board quickly enough, just document that. Or if you have people that once you get the funds, they say they're not coming back to work for any reason they give, document that. That's what they refer to as a good faith effort to rehire employees, or you can hire somebody in their place if need be. So that's really the major things they've made changes on for this last version. Here's the actual application. Again, it's a pretty simple thing. Check which box is appropriate for your business entity. Ensure that it's the right legal name for your business, the right NAICS code right here, the industry classification, and then your address, EIN number, et cetera. And then right here is where you make that calculation on your average monthly payroll and then put that in there. And that's what they use to base your maximum loan amount on that number. And then number of employees. They're going to ask you up front just how many employees you have. And then on the back end, you'll need to provide documentation to show that you still have the same number of employees and approximately the same payroll as before. So they don't want people to take the PPP and then not keep people on board. Even if you lose somebody and you replace them with somebody else, that will count on the loan forgiveness piece. A couple other things you answer there. Again, it's a pretty simple application. It's PDF format that you can drop in the answers, save it, and submit it to your lender. Your lender is who looks it over and then sends it on for approval later on to SBA, but they will provide the funds and drop those into your account. Worst case scenario, you don't get it 100% forgiven. If you don't get all the loan forgiven, the interest rate on the back end will be 1% interest on whatever that amount is. Maybe it's just a couple $100 or a couple of $1,000, and you have anywhere from 2 years to 5 years term on it. Now, if you are just now applying, for a PPP. Anytime after June 5th of last summer, it's going to be a 5-year term. That's another change they made to stretch out the monthly payment to make it a little more doable for lots of folks in the that are applying for this. So you go back to the lender and apply for forgiveness. There's a form that you can use, and the lender can talk you through this process. Any lender you're working with now probably got baptized with fire back in April, May, and June with these applications. No collateral required and no fees on the loans by either SBA or the lender. We have heard of some situations where there are companies that are less than reputable, and they offer to fill it out for you and send the form in for you and charge a fee. You don't need to pay a fee. You can work with your lender and get that done. So probably can avoid any types of conversations like that. Big news here on the second PPP. If you did get the first one and you have used up the money and you are interested in reapplying, you can certainly do that. Same general terms on it as before, with this exception for the food and hotel motel industries. If you're in this NAICS code, instead of 2.5 times the monthly payroll average, it's 3.5 times the average for those in this industry. That is because Congress heard loud and clear that that is an extremely labor-intensive sector of the economy, and those folks, even with the ones who got the PPP, it was just not enough to keep everyone on payroll. So they fixed that and just use the new application form. SD stands for second draw. So make sure when you're applying, you use the correct application form. The one I showed earlier, the screenshots, or what most of you are using. If you're not sure, your lender will either direct you to the SBA site for that, or they probably have that or a similar lender version on that's on their site to use. So they have to assess that you are eligible. The lender, that is, has to assess that you're eligible for the second round, the second draw of a PPP. And if you got funding already on the first round, go ahead and submit your application for forgiveness, and you can apply for the second draw. All you need to do is ensure that all the funds are used up before you get the second draw amount. And your lender, again, you'll probably be working with the same folks you did before. You and they will both know where you are in that process for forgiveness. They're going to have to wait until you provide documentation showing that you've used up all of the funds from the first PPP draw in order to be applying for the second round. So that's what they have to deal with, the second bullet right here, 300 employees or less. And this is important, this is new, but probably not an issue for any of you. You just have to show between 2019 and 2020, any given quarter where you had at least a 25% reduction in revenue, gross receipts, any kind of income that you have for your business or nonprofit. And then you just show that. It's actually on the form when you apply. It will ask what the 2019 quarter looks like dollar-wise and what the 2020 quarter is, just to show that it's at least a 25% reduction. Most people, frankly, are picking the second quarter of 2020, that April, May, June quarter when the pandemic hit so hard. So, but if you want to use another one and it fits those parameters, it's certainly up to you. Now, I put these in because these are, I think, very useful. If you note, these are live links. You'll get a copy if they share it with you, Susie and Kathy, then you'll have a link directly to these links I'm referring. This is how to calculate the maximum loan, the application form for the first draw or the first round, the second draw or second round of PPP. And then it explains here in a lot of detail the forgiveness process. But remember, you're going through your lender, and they should be able to explain that to you as well. And if you have any hiccups, talk with them. They've got a 1-800 hotline where they can call SBA, or they can send emails with questions to SBA. And this is also something that's useful for you, the frequently asked questions, the FAQs there. You may want to look at them if you're just not familiar, if you haven't been through this process yet. And I just put in some of the more useful links that are out there for you. So other than that, if I doubt that anybody doesn't have a lender, but there are literally 5,500 or more lenders across the country, including some that are online lenders only. So if you need a lender, if for whatever reason you don't have a relationship or you don't have a lender who wants to do this round with you, contact us. You can go to the SBA website and find a lender literally by just typing in your zip code. You can contact me directly and I'll send you a list of lenders in your area, or you can go on this lender match and do it that way. So just again, some different links that you might find helpful, whether now or later. They're all live, and I'm going to stop, take questions from you, and see what's on your mind before we go on with the EIDL, the EIDL loans. Okay.
I've got a couple of just spot checks. This is Mike. I was on an exercise equipment, so give me just a minute and I'll breathe. You said that as long as round one was completely dispersed or spent out on qualified expenses, that can actually happen after December 31st, as long as it's before the second round is dispersed. Is that correct?
That is correct, Mike. Yeah.
Okay. So because on the first one, I did not ask for full forgiveness because I wanted to leave some in that particular bank account for future use. But prior to this second application, I went on and spent that out and then put money back in that account to keep it open. Is that a good process?
Yeah, I think that is a good process. For whatever reason, and that's why they want that flexibility, so that you're able to, if you need it, you've got those funds there. And,
okay, good. I just wanted to make sure that I wasn't penalized because I didn't spend out by the end of the year. I mean, it was $10, but I wanted to leave that account open. So on my forgiveness, I'm not including that money in the forgiveness. So the other thing is, as you made a great point, is I think we all took it on the chin pretty hard second quarter. But that you just have to do that for one quarter, and you don't have to have even lost year over year. It's just the 1 quarter measurement. Is that correct?
That's correct. Pick the quarter you want between 2020 and 2019.
Yeah, that was a rough 3 months.
Yes, it was. Yes, it was.
Thank you.
So that's why I said most people are picking that quarter, but there are some that for whatever reason in their, the way their cash flowed in and out, they chose another quarter.
Right.
And some of them said, hey, it doesn't matter which quarter, all of them were really bad. So
I picked up on where some businesses, you'll still qualify, even though if your entire year, if you recovered, say the last half of the year, they'll still help you out because of that 1 quarter, even if you actually made money more in 2020 than 19.
Yes. They're looking at a quarter, year over year, 1 quarter only that you select.
And being, I don't know if I'm the only sole proprietor / independent contractor on here, but if anybody has if they want to just discuss, I won't give advice because I'm not official, but I'll be glad to share experiences. And if you want to reach out to me.
That's a generous offer. And there have been a lot of folks similar to yourself, particularly when this first rolled out. They weren't quite sure if they were eligible. They weren't quite sure what the process was. They weren't quite sure if they were going to get it fully forgiven as a sole proprietor. So yeah, there have been a lot of, and by the way, I mentioned the FAQ section there. I think that's like 13 pages, and they use a lot of examples based on feedback they've gotten from across the country. And they have probably 3 or 4 of those for the small independent sole proprietor, single operator sort of entity, because there are a lot of those. That's probably the predominant type of business in the country.
Yeah, and I will tell you, the second application is a little more friendly to that classification than the first. The first felt like round pegs and square holes with some of the word choices that were in there, but we were told to just kind of jam it in there, go with what it's intended versus maybe what it verbatim says, because it really didn't talk to it said we were qualified, but the questions really didn't feel like it was written with that in mind.
Yes, and I realize that you're accurate on that. I heard somebody about 2 weeks ago when they were talking about, said they were building the plane as they were flying the plane, as they were trying to gas up the plane. So, I mean, it rolled out in a matter of 10 days, something they normally roll out that takes anywhere from one year to 18 months for them to roll out a new program. But, the urgency was there, and they couldn't sit there and make sure everything was perfectly right before they introduced it. So, yeah, word choices weren't the best, but I'm glad you got through that.
Yeah, and I'll even go as far to say, if you do a post exercise kind of feedback thing, feel free to reach out. If you want to get it from the end user perspective as a sole proprietor, I'll be glad to share with you.
Thank you. I appreciate that. Do we have any other questions before we move on?
I just had a quick question on the operations expenditures you're talking about that it could be used for. Would that include like technology updates, equipment, that kind of stuff? I'm assuming so, but
I believe, Susie, they addressed that, I believe, on the website. I remember something about examples like cloud-based services, et cetera. I don't recall if it was for both rounds of the PPP. I think it is. And I may also be conflating that with the EIDL loan. But if you go to that PPP or SBA.gov/PPP, they've got a lot of lists, a more detailed list of all of those expenses. That's part of what they're continuing to update.
Okay, thank you.
Talk with the lender too, because they've got that list. They've done a lot of lender training so that because they've got to look it over before they take the application and accept it, and on the back end before they approve it and then send it on to SBA for final approval. So they should have that full list as well. They've done a whole lot of training with the lenders.
Okay. Thank you.
Okay, good questions. Okay, well, it sounds like I need to move on to the next. I'm going to close my laptop again and start with the EIDL, Economic Injury Disaster Loaner. We call it EIDL for short. I'm not sure, did most of you apply for that or way back or not? Shaking of heads, I'm seeing some yes, some no. If you did not, the expectation was that was going to expire at the end of 2020. They extended it, Congress did, all the way out to 2021. So you got a full year, and I cannot tell you how many people I've talked to in the last 3 weeks who said, well, I didn't apply, I wished I had, or I didn't think I would need it. Now, I really do. So that's good news. You can use the EIDL, you can use the EIDL funds, and you can use PPP funds. What you cannot do is use both funds for payroll during the same time frame. So if you decide that you get your PPP funds and you want to use all of that for payroll, and then you get an EIDL, which is a loan, and you want to use all of that for other expenses, rent, utilities, you can do that. Or you can use both on payroll. You just cannot use them during the same time period. So if you use EIDL for the month of January, the funds for that, and then you use PPP for the month of February and maybe early March, all the way in through the end of March, you take a full 8-week period on that, that's fine. Just do not commingle those two separate programs on the same expense, which in this case is payroll. Don't use it for that during the same time frame, and you will have no problems. That is something that you just want to be sure of. If you're not certain, I think if you just read up a little bit more, talk with your accountant, or in some cases with your lender, And if you still have questions, reach out to me and we'll try and step you through that. But now if you want to look at both programs, you're certainly eligible to do that. And it's basically the EIDL is used for small businesses, many of the private nonprofits, and they extended it out to agricultural-based businesses as well. So here's the actual link. It's a little long, but I'm going to step you through a couple of things in a moment to show you what it looks like. It's a loan, as I mentioned, 3.75% interest rate, fixed rate for small businesses, 2.75% fixed rate for nonprofits. You can take that out to a 30-year term. Some of the folks I've talked with have monthly payments of $25 to $50 a month. And they keep asking, when is that going to increase? It's not. That is what it is. It's a fixed rate for 30 years, just like a mortgage on a home, except that it's not going to ever go up. If you want to pay it off at any time, you can. There's no prepayment penalty. But you can use it for, debts. Payroll is what people, as I mentioned earlier, a lot of times will use it for payroll and accounting, like rent, utilities, basically some of your fixed and some of your operating expenses that might be variable, like payroll for some of your staff. Okay, so once you get the money deposited in your account, you do not have to begin payments for one year. You will get some kind of notification stating that, and it's actually in the loan closing documents. Interest will accrue, but you do not have to begin making any payments until a year after you get that money deposited, unless you want to. If you want to start paying it early, you can. They have 3 or 4 different ways you can pay. So you can make that selection. You can direct deposit it. You can mail a check. You can call a phone number, whichever is easiest for you. As I mentioned earlier, no prepayment penalty on the loan. Collateral is only required if you have a loan of $25,000 and above. And then they'll notify you right before the amount of money going into your account hits the account. So they'll let you know. And again, here's the application link. It's a little long, but we've got set up a group of folks. I honestly don't know how many people at the disaster center. It's a call center that they have hired hundreds of folks, because it's the first time in history that we've ever had the entire country declared as a disaster. And virtually every organization, as long as they're classified as small, every small business and almost every smaller nonprofit is eligible for this program too. So you can call, they staff it 24 hours, or I'm sorry, not 24 hours. They staff it 7 days a week from 8 a.m. to 8 p.m. And there's an email address as well. Here's the thing, if you get denied, in other words, if they say no on the loan, you have up to 6 months to request that they do what they call reconsideration on your application. So what they will do, if you put in writing that you would like for them to reconsider your application, you may have additional documents you want to provide. Maybe there was a miscalculation at your end and you didn't catch it till after you submitted it. So you've got up to 6 months. The sooner you make that decision and the sooner you notify them, the better. I would highly recommend that if you do say, yes, please reconsider my application, you do it by email to this email address there. Fax is okay for people who still use fax. Do not, though, mail it. They have thousands and thousands of documents, including things like copies of tax returns, copies of leases, all kinds of things that are going to the one location they call the Processing and Distribution Center in Fort Worth, Texas. You don't want your little envelope with your request in writing on a piece of paper going there. It's best to just do it via email. That way you've got documentation and you know it was delivered to them, and you can rest assured that they've got it. So if you do need to request that they review it again, that's the process. Now, the actual application is pretty straightforward. It's about, it's 5 screens. Here's what they look like. 1, 2, the second one is business information, owner's information. And they'll ask for additional things, including your bank account, name of bank, routing number. And then the last thing is really important. That's summary that will list all the answers you provided. When you get to that last screen, look it over carefully before you hit submit. Because if you hit submit and then later notice, oh, I put the wrong bank account number. Oh, I forgot our bank merged with another bank and they changed names 2 months ago. Whatever the case may be, once you hit submit, it is very hard to fix it. In fact, you cannot go back in there and fix it in most cases. So just take your time, even though it's a quick application, just take your time, walk through it slowly, and make sure everything is accurate. I've talked to so many people that they transposed a number on their bank account or their routing number, or something else was inaccurate, and that has caused a lot of headache because at the time they were in a hurry trying to get it in there and get ahead of the queue, and it's causing a lot of headaches trying to get that fixed. So this is what the actual applications look like. It's very basic: name of the business, EIN or social security number, a drop down here for organization type, whether you're a nonprofit, a small business, an agricultural based business, etc. So you can go in there on this link and submit it. You can take step by step through that process. Typically, it's questions like this or questions like this. A little bubble there, yes or no. Are you a nonprofit? Yes or no. Are you a franchise? This is another really important one. And by the way, anything that has a red bar over to the far left side is mandatory. And you need to answer that before you can advance to the next screen. So gross revenues for 12 months and cost of sales, cost of goods, cost of operations, depending on what your legal entity is and the terminology used. But that's what you put in there. And here is what they do. This is why these two are so important. It's weird because you're not going to ask them for what the amount is you need and want. They're going to look at the last year's income, cost, gross revenues, or whatever the term is for your operation. They're going to look at the cost of sales, cost of goods, whatever that is. They subtract the two. They get a number. They call that working capital. And then they take that number and divide it by 2. What that number is the actual 6 months of working capital based on your tax returns that SBA says, for these types of loans, they want to provide you with 6 months of working capital to pay for things like payroll, rent, utilities, etc. So this is where a lot of people also rushed and they put a number too low here on gross revenues, a number perhaps too high on the cost of goods sold. And they ended up getting less than they thought they were, going to get because they made a mistake, or maybe their accountant didn't have all the numbers ready for them, and they just put a number in there and moved on. So you cannot correct that once it's entered, other than to ask for reconsideration. But it's sort of weird at the end, right before you accept the loan, you can ask for an increase. Maybe you made that mistake and had those numbers here for the cost of revenues too low. At the end, you can say, we've got additional documentation we would like to provide before we close on this loan. Will you look at this so we can possibly get an increase? And that's where you would want to do that increase at that time, if you need it and can show your need. Now, the EIDL advance, this is something that just changed late last week. There was an EIDL advance, which is a grant, not a loan. The EIDL advance is, anytime you hear the word advance, know that they were talking about the grant. That was $1,000 per employee, up to 10 employees, if you had 10 or more. They ran out of funds back last July. Congress did not put any additional funds back into that program. But what they did is Congress said when they signed the bill back in December and passed it, what they did is they designated, I believe it was $15 billion for this program. And they are first targeting low-income communities, and there's a definition at the IRS side of what that is. It's also a link on the SBA website, and a 30% or more reduction in revenue. So it's kind of a two-step thing. If you can check yes and yes, then you're in the queue for that. Or if you applied but didn't get the funding and you hit some of those parameters, either way, SBA has got applications for folks and they're going through those right now, and they will contact you if they determine that you look like you're eligible. So even if you applied, didn't get funds, but hit those thresholds of what it says that Congress deemed as necessary for this program, you may be in the queue to get some of those EIDL advanced grants. Again, with a grant, you do not have to pay that back. All that information is available right here on that link. It's a very long link. That's why, you got a hot link there so you can go and look at it. And they updated it, I think, last Friday afternoon. Couple of more things I want to mention. The Shuttered Venue Operators Grant, if anybody is out there and fits these parameters, the funds on that are totally different. So there are some of you out there across the state that may determine that the Shuttered Venue Operators Grant is a good deal. Some of you may say, well, it looks good. I don't know. I might do the PPP when that grant for the Shuttered Venue Operators, they used to call it Save Our Stages, but it also includes museums and zoos and other types of basically tourist destinations. They've got the funding and they are waiting to get the last of the guidelines, and then they'll get that going active soon. But you cannot apply for both the PPP and this grant. It's either or. So if you think you might be interested in that, make sure before you apply for PPP that you don't want or find that the Shuttered Venue Operators Grant is a better deal for your circumstances. Again, it's either or. So hopefully in the next few days, you'll see the guidelines on the SBA website and be able to make that determination. This is new that just popped up late last week. In addition to all the SBA programs, if you actually click on this link right here and you go to that site, you can enter your zip code and it will list all federal, state, and local government funding sources that fit those parameters. So it's an actual active site that is being updated constantly. SBA launched that about the middle of last week. So it's a great resource. Not only does it cover the SBA, but it also lists USDA. And as I mentioned, it might list a local county or city fund that might be available, and could be additional loans or grants available to your operation. So something worth looking at. Okay. Questions at this point?
So I know that the PPP was opened up to chambers, but what about the EIDL loan? Or 501c6 could be considered a nonprofit? No? Okay.
No, they did not. We were hoping they would make that change, but still to my knowledge, Congress did not make that change for the EIDL grant or the EIDL loan. Yeah, we were hoping that they would tweak that for this round, and they did not.
Well, Michael, we got one on the first round.
Well, wait a minute. Did you get the advance or did you get the grant?
We got a grant for 1,000 because that's,
Okay.
But we also got a loan as well.
Are you a 501c6?
Yes, we are.
Okay, I forget there are certain types. You need to look at it and see the qualification, Susie, and this might be it with you. It depends on one of the things they looked at is lobbying. That's where some of the chambers were not able to. So take a look at it. I could be wrong in your case. You might be eligible for that. So check the SBA.gov website for EIDL. It will list all of those where it's eligible. And if you're not sure, just submit it. it's up to the folks at the other end to determine whether you're eligible or not. So they will, now submitting the application doesn't mean it sails through. They're going to ask you after the fact. They're going to ask for your tax returns, probably the paperwork, your legal filings with the Secretary of State, et cetera. That's where sometimes, although it's the same nonprofit status, depending on what kind of other activities you do, you may or may not be eligible.
Okay, that makes sense. And we also have a foundation, a C3 that we run through our organization as well. So
that's where, yeah, that's where a lot of them did. That, you know, depending on whether they had the foundation or the C6. So take a look at that, and then you can figure out quickly if you can go one direction or the other. Any other questions on the EIDL?
Every time I come up with a question, you answer it before I get to ask it. So it's very good.
Sorry about that.
No, that's good. That's good. You answered everything.
Well, I guess the main thing is to keep checking the sites, because particularly with the PPP, they've gotten a lot of updates. The good news is most of what they were in the past, they were updating ongoing for months. They got most of that uploaded late last week. So within the week of reactivating the program for everyone, they were able to get most of those documents out there. There are probably very few gray areas, whether it's a PPP or the EIDL, and Susie asked one of them just a moment ago regarding, you know, their legal or their operating status and whether they're eligible for the EIDL. Other than that, I'm not aware of many other things that are more of a gray area still. So, you know, it took a long time, but they did address, Congress did address a lot of those questions and clarified it. So thankful for that.
Can I ask a question about the PPP again?
Sure.
So fully plan in an effort to plan ahead for possible payments, could you tell me again what the interest rate and the term was and when they start, just for budgeting?
The interest rate is 1% on anything that's unforgiven. And usually, I believe 10 months after you spend the last of your PPP funds is when you'll start making payments on that balance that you owe. And it's a 5-year term, anything, unless you applied for and received the funds before last June. I think it was June 5th. So, you know, if you're applying now or applied beyond June 5th, then it's a 5-year term on the loan.
Thank you. I figure it's always good to plan ahead.
Exactly. Yeah.
Anybody else with any questions? No? Well, Michael, I'm sure Susie wants to thank you also. I appreciate you giving up time on your day and scrambling to find out everything that we needed. You did it so well that you didn't have many questions, which is, that's an awesome thing for a speaker. So we appreciate that. But we also appreciate everybody else turning in. Susan or Susie, thank you again. If you got any questions, I'm just going to speak on behalf of Susie and say contact her or contact myself or Michael. But I'm going to send out the your PowerPoint presentation to the PAC members. I'm sure Susie will do the same thing.
Yes, that's what I was just getting ready to say. As soon as we end this meeting, I will forward out. I saw all those that participated from the Frankfurt Chamber, so I will email you this presentation so that you can have that. It's got the hyperlinks in there as well. And again, I just want to thank you, Michael, so much for taking the time to speak with us today. I know this is a pretty urgent matter right now and a lot to go through. So hey, thank you for helping us navigate through the PPP and the EIDL. I appreciate it.
My pleasure. Thank you both. And yeah, if anybody's got questions, the next slide will have our general email box and they can email me directly too if they have some questions.
Great. Thank you so much.
Okay. Thank you. Thank all of you for attending.
Thank you.
Y'all have a good day.
Thanks. Stay
All
dry,
righty.
everyone. Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
Bye-bye.